How long should I breastfeed for? Should I breastfeed on both sides? Is 5 minutes too short? Is 1 hour too long? You're in the right place. Today, we're going to break it down so you know exactly what's normal and when to make adjustments. Welcome to Lactation with Amy. Today, we're going to talk all about breastfeeding expectations. This is one of the most common questions I get asked when I work in the hospital as a lactation consultant. If this is your first baby and the first time you've breastfed, I would say somewhere between 10 minutes and 40 minutes is a good range. Let me explain why. In the first few days when you and your baby are still learning, your baby might open their mouth, look around, move their hands around, and then eventually latch on the breast, have a couple sucks, and then comes off, and then latches again, has a couple sucks, suck a little bit, and then come off again. This can go on for a while until your baby finally, after going on, off, they finally latch and stay latched on, and suck for a period of time and pause, and suck for a period of time and pause, and so on. When a baby is constantly latching on and off, they often don't form a good vacuum and maintain a latch to trigger a letdown. A letdown is a hormone response that tells your body to release milk. When a baby isn't latching for long enough to trigger that hormone release, that means the milk or the colostrum is probably not flowing out quite well. In that case, whether it's been 1 minute or 20 minutes of your baby latching on, off, your baby may still be hungry afterwards. When I say 10 minutes, that's a good starting point for how long they need to actively suck for. And actively sucking doesn't mean they have to suck the entire 10 minutes. Instead of latching on and off, you want them to latch on and suck, pause, and maintain that good latch in their mouth whilst they're doing that. Before your milk comes in, we always want to offer both breasts. If baby is still interested, that extra feeding helps to fill their tummy and also stimulate prolactin release, which tells your body to make more milk. Now, if your baby only sucks for 7 minutes and maintains a good latch, then comes off looking pretty satisfied, that's great. But if they come off after a few minutes and still looks really hungry, they'll usually open their mouth again and then latch straight back on. And why do we say 40 minutes? When we look at a feed, it's more about the quality of a breastfeed rather than the clock. Efficiency matters more than the duration. For example, if a baby breastfeeds on one side for 40 minutes, they're usually actively sucking for the first 10 minutes and then really slow down and drift into sleep and probably do a lot of comfort sucking if they're still suckling. And then maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, they start sucking more actively again and then quickly drift off into sleep. If you're comfortable, you're awake, you've eaten, you're not sleep deprived, you're enjoying the bonding time and the suckling is not hurting you, then there's no harm in letting your baby suckle for longer. This gentle stimulation can also help you maintain your milk supply and tell your body to make more milk. However, if you're in pain, you're sleep deprived, you're exhausted, you're busting, you need to go to the toilet, or you've been waiting to shower for the whole day, this is when you can switch things up. For example, when they start to slow down after the first 10 to 15 minutes, you can change their nappy and offer the other breast, and this helps to keep the baby alert and encourage more efficient feeding. Usually speaking, a baby who breastfeeds for 20 minutes on one side and then 20 minutes on another side will often get more milk overall than a baby who sucks on one side for 40 minutes, just because they're more likely to be awake and woken up as we switch sides. How often should I breastfeed? For newborns up to 3 months, an average is 8 to 12 breastfeeds in a 24-hour period. Now, that can either look like a baby who feeds 3 hourly on the clock, or most likely a baby who will feed, sleep for 2 to 4 hours, feed, sleep for 2 to 4 hours, and then showing cluster feeding behavior where they do more often feeding during that period. Cluster feeding can often last between 2 to 4 hours, where a baby will probably feed for 10 minutes, falls asleep on you really quickly, takes a 20 to 30 minute nap. You put them down thinking they're done. They wake up a 10 minute later wanting another short feed. You feed the baby for another 10 minutes, they fall asleep on you. They look like they've had such an amazing feed. You put them down, they wake up in a 20-minute period and then still want to feed, and just on repeat for 2 to 4 hours. When they cluster feed like that, it actually counts as a few separate feeds. So when a baby cluster feeds, they often are followed by a longer gap after cluster feeding where they can sleep for maybe 4 to 5 hours even. And then after the cluster feeding period of the day, they'll probably feed more regularly around every 2 to 4 hours again. So in a 24-hour period, there's a total of between 8 to 12 feeds. If your baby is feeding more than 12 times in a 24-hour period and never taking long breaks, it might mean that the quality of their feeds needs to improve, especially because it's becoming exhausting for you. Tracking your baby's wakeful times, sleep times, and feeding patterns will help you understand their natural rhythm and whether they're getting enough milk, regardless of how long each feed takes. I would say that rather than timing how long each feed is, looking at the quality of the feed and their feeding pattern, which means the frequency of their feeds in a 24-hour period, will give you a better understanding of how well your baby is doing and what's normal for you. Other factors that can affect the length of your feeds include breast milk storage capacity, milk flow speed, and your baby's suck-swallow coordination. Now, in terms of breast storage capacity, what that refers to is the amount of milk a breast is able to store. So some people's breasts may store, a lot of milk, enough for 2 feeds for a baby at once, whereas other people's breasts might only be able to store enough milk for half a feed or a quarter of a feed. If your breast milk storage capacity is smaller, your baby is more likely to feed like 3 to 4 sides every time you do a breastfeed to be able to get full and go off to sleep and relax. If your breast storage capacity is larger, you might breastfeed a baby on one side and it doesn't even feel too much softer or lighter. And then when your baby is hungry again, you might offer the same side again just to help you drain your breast. What milk flow speed refers to is how fast your milk is ejecting out of your breast. Some people might notice that, as soon as their baby starts crying, they're not even due to have a feed or about to have a breastfeed, you can see your milk squirting out of your breast like a stream, like a hose. Now, if you have a really fast milk flow, your baby might fill up and be full within 4 to 5 minutes of feeding. If you have a slower letdown, you won't notice as much leaking and as much spraying. So your baby might actually need to suck on your breast for 2 to 3 minutes until your body releases the milk and promotes that letdown reflex. So if that's the case, your baby only starts swallowing breast milk after 2 to 3 minutes of sucking, compared to a baby who's going to start gulping straight away and finish feeding in 45 minutes. Now, if you're someone with a slower milk ejection reflex and you're like, oh my goodness, I envy those people who just have a really fast letdown, just know that sometimes their babies actually find it really hard to cope with the fast flow of the milk. It actually can end up affecting their breastfeeding behavior, and they might come off the breast being overwhelmed rather than because they're full. So just because something looks amazing because it's a short breastfeed from the outside, these breastfeeding duets sometimes do have their own struggles as well. The last thing I want to quickly mention is baby suck-swallow coordination. The suck-swallow-breathe coordination is obviously less mature in babies who are born early or in babies who have oral restrictions. When a baby is on the breast and they are swallowing, they physically can't breathe with their nose at the same time. So you might notice that your baby will suck, and then swallow, and then maybe take a pause if they've been swallowing quite quickly and to catch up on their breath. So this is basically the suck-swallow-breathe coordination. Some babies need some time to be able to develop this suck-swallow-breathe, whereas other babies cope with that quite well from birth. If your baby is born prematurely, you might notice that they might need to breastfeed for a little bit longer because they need time to learn how to coordinate their breathing. So they might be on your breast for 10-20 minutes, but they're needing to take a lot of breathing breaks every time they swallow because their body is still learning that coordination. As you can see, there are so many different factors that can influence how long a breastfeed might take, from your milk flow to the storage capacity to your baby's coordination and appetite on the day. It's no wonder that as a parent, it feels very confusing trying to figure out what's normal when you're just trying to do the right thing. Just remember, what's normal can look different every day and for every baby. The advice you get from a lactation consultant or a clinician is based on that specific moment in time, and it will shift as your baby grows and your body adjusts. So trust yourself. If your baby is growing, having plenty of wet nappies, and you're coping okay, then you're absolutely doing enough and you've got this. You're doing a great job. See you in the next one.